Welcome back to the Disney Renaissance. Let's get back into the swing of things with number 5, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. The Hunchback of Notre Dame may be the most controversial film of this era, and certainly the darkest. This is one of the only, if not the only, Disney animated films that actually tackles the subject of religion, both the blessings of it and how people can misuse it. This film means different things to different people. Many people think it's an underrated gem. Some people think it's one of the best movies to come out of the era. Others think it was handled poorly as an adaptation of Victor Hugo's novel, and still others think it's just too dark for a children's movie. Me, I personally love this film, though I do think it's not without fault. My main problem with this film is the inconsistency with the tone. It goes from a silly romp with the gargoyles one moment to scenes that are incredibly mature and dark in nature the next. It doesn't mesh all that well. In my opinion, I think if the gargoyles were cut out completely, or at least handled differently, it would have made the film that much stronger. But the film's strengths, as is, make up for the faults big time. The movie is gorgeously animated, from Quasi sliding down the beams of Notre Dame to Esmeralda seductively dancing, to the haunting hellfire scene. To this day, that is my favorite piece of animation ever. The characters are fairly well fleshed out and well-rounded, especially the hero and the villain. I personally connect with Quasimodo a good deal. I find his innocence and earnestness very believable. Claude Frollo is a perfect foil for him, becoming one of the scariest and threatening villains in the Disney canon. But the best part about this movie are the songs and the score. Alan Menken, once again teaming with lyricist Stephen Schwartz, brings one of the grandest, most epic Disney soundtracks ever. It is without a doubt my favorite collection of songs, which, coming from a studio known for great musicals, is saying something. Number 4, The Little Mermaid. This is the movie that started the era. It was a trendsetter and a game changer, setting a new tone for all the films after to follow. The importance of this film may be more than you realize, as we now take Disney everything for granted. This movie pretty much saved the animation studio, so we should never take this film lightly whether you like it as a movie or not. Obviously, by its place on this list, I have a strong fondness for The Little Mermaid. While I don't think Ariel is the best role model for young girls, she did set into motion the active heroine, the heroine who does things for herself as opposed to the passive heroine, the heroine who lets things be done to her, which Snow White, Cinderella, and Aurora all fall under. This movie also introduces the use of a more Broadway musical theater style of musicals, stepping away from the pop of earlier Disney musicals like Oliver and Company. This is in no small part due to the amazingly talented duo of Howard Ashman and Alan Menken. These two, maybe more than anyone else, made The Little Mermaid what we know today. I'll be honest and say that nostalgia plays a huge role in my love for this film, but you can't deny that this movie has some wonderful charms, from the lovable characters, to the unbelievably catchy music, to the always beautiful animation. This was the perfect film to start off the era, and it changed Disney for good. So for that, thank you, Little Mermaid. Also, Ursula is the bomb. Just saying. She's fabulous. Number 3, Aladdin. There are plenty of things to love about Aladdin. For one, Aladdin as a protagonist is probably the strongest male lead in a Disney film since all the way back to Peter Pan. He remains one of the strongest and most likable to this day. The music is a strange, wonderful mix between big band jazz and Broadway, with just a dash of Middle Eastern instrumentation, thanks to the ever-astounding genius of Alan Menken, who partnered with lyricist Tim Rice after Howard Ashman's untimely death in 1991. The animation is bright, stylized, and smooth, perfectly matching with the fast pace of the movie. The late great Robin Williams' turn as the genie was pretty much perfect. It's a performance, style, and a feeling that is often imitated but never duplicated. The anachronistic humor in the film just adds to the charm, but I felt it could be a little distracting. What I like about this movie, though, is that it's very light. It's stuck in between Beauty and the Beast and The Lion King, two wonderful films that have some very heavy moments. Aladdin, in retrospect, brings a bit of levity to the earlier half of the Disney Renaissance, and it is much appreciated. It's just a really fun action-adventure that just happens to have a lot of heart. It's definitely one of Disney's best and one of my favorites. Next. I have loved Beauty and the Beast for as long as I can remember. At one point I believe I considered it my favorite movie. However, it wasn't until much more recently that I really started appreciating Beauty and the Beast for the masterpiece it is. This film was the first animated picture to be nominated for Best Picture at the Academy Awards, and for good reason. This film is beautiful in every sense of the word. It's quite literally beautiful as far as aesthetics and animation goes, but its treatment of its characters is also quite literally beautiful and graceful, and is some of the best I've seen in any movie, let alone a Disney movie. I love the symbolism, the character growth, and the dynamics between the characters. Gaston is a beauty that turned beastly, just as the Beast is a monster that turned beautiful, the two of them completely and perfectly contrasting one another. The movie plays expertly with the concept of physical beauty versus the beauty of a soul. Belle is also a great character, who has a lot of warmth, intelligence, and strength. She told her female audience that it's okay to be different, to be smart, and to stand up for what is right. But we can't talk about Beauty and the Beast without talking about the music. This is Howard Ashman's magnum opus and his final completed work with Disney. He and Alan Menken knew what they were doing, turning out one of Disney's most beautiful soundtracks. It really breaks my heart that Ashman never got to see the finished product in all its glory. I know he would have been proud. With all the praises, though, why isn't this my favorite film of the era? Well, let's just say it's a really close second. And number 1, The Lion King. Oh my gosh, I love this movie to pieces. It's actually really hard to describe just what I love about this movie because it's pretty much everything. This is my favorite Disney movie, not just of the era, but of all time. It's one of my favorite movies in general, right alongside Return of the King and Amadeus. It's a huge, grand, epic movie that pretty much does everything right. The animation is wonderfully warm and it fits perfectly with the subject matter and the setting. It's strange to know now that this was considered the B-level project next to the A-level project of Pocahontas. Little did they know that this movie would go on to become the highest-grossing traditionally animated film of all time. The characters are all very well fleshed out and lovable in different ways. You really identify with Simba's struggles, and you want more than anything to see him succeed. Timon and Pumbaa are great as comedic relief and have become fan favorites. Scar is one of the scariest Disney villains of all time, providing us with one of the biggest, most heart-wrenching deaths in cinematic history with Mufasa, who happens to be my favorite Disney character. The music is loud and boisterous and only adds to the strength of the movie. Alan Menken was busy with Pocahontas, so instead we got his Aladdin partner Tim Rice and a little-known musician by the name of Elton John to pen the songs for this movie. Circle of Life remains my favorite Disney song. Hans Zimmer provided an equally grand score, with all 3 men winning Oscars for their work on the film. This movie is so important to me, and I hold it so close to my heart that it's almost difficult to talk about it without getting a little emotional. So with that, I'll say, thank you, Lion King. You're the best. This era of Disney animation is one of the most important. The Disney Renaissance renewed faith in not just Disney, but in animation. Because of the success of this era, other animation studios were allowed to find their footing, like Pixar and DreamWorks. This era changed everything for Disney, and inadvertently changed my life. This is the era I think of when I think of Disney, and my love for it has most definitely had a hand in who I am today. Because of my love for Disney, I wouldn't have had the courage to actually begin work in Disney World in a few weeks' time. It's a shame this high point in Disney animation couldn't last. All good things must come to an end, and as they say, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. So join me as I talk about the next era, the recession of Disney animation.